Who has a starting point for us?
I have a question for 3B.
3B.
Is that symbol perpendicular?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the perpendicular symbol. Do we need to do that problem, or do we know how?
Can we do that one?
Yep. 3B, here we go. 3B, we got all period to do, nothing but review. Whatever questions you got. So, you want to write the equation line perpendicular to this one and containing the point 1, 4. All right? How do we write the equation of a line? We need a slope and a point. Well, we've got the point, so we need a slope. What does perpendicular say to you? Opposite reciprocal slope. So I need to find the slope of this one, and whatever it turns out to be, I'm going to do the opposite reciprocal of it, right? How do I find the slope of this line?
Pull over the 4x.
Get y by itself, right? So I'm going to pull over the 4x and divide by 8. Now don't freak out about the 3/8. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything, right? I did this so that I could find the slope. So my slope is of the line that they gave me is -1/2, which means my perpendicular slope will be 2. Now, this problem could be a parallel problem or a perpendicular problem. No matter what, we're going to do it the same way. We're going to start by finding our slope. If we're doing a perpendicular problem, then we're going to use a slope of +2. If we're doing a parallel problem, we're going to use a slope of -1/2. Right? So read the question, make sure you're doing the right thing. All right, now I know my slope is 2 because this is a perpendicular problem. So what do? True?
You get point slope, so
Yeah.
y minus 4 equals 2, x minus 1.
Yep. And then if it says, if it doesn't say anything at all, then that's fine. If it says point slope, then that's fine. If it says slope intercept, then we gotta get y by itself again for this guy. So again, you just gotta follow the directions. And if there aren't any directions, then you get to make them up and answer it however you want. Okay? And then the parallel question, you would do everything the same, but this number would be a -1/2. Right? Okay, good question. All right, who else sees something on the paper? Peter? 11, written sideways, because I was conserving, trying not to go on to another sheet of paper. All right, so you've got this chart of data. It says, using the data for 1999 and 2002, write a linear equation, then find the imports in 2020. Okay, so look at 1999 and 2002, and those data points, this is 53.2, and this is 55.1. Everybody with me? So here we go. What do I have to do first? Linear equation. Guys, it's just what we just did. We gotta find the slope. So the slope, y minus y over x minus x. And I get a slope of 19/30. Now, it is better when you are using, I'm going to use my equation to answer a question. If I round off my equation, what's going to happen to my answer? It's going to be off, right? So it's better not to round off if you can help it. So you probably typed in on your calculator this number, 55.1 minus 53.2, and then divided that by 3, and did you get a decimal? That's not like 0.23, is it, that like goes on and on? So you can fix that real easy. When you get that decimal up there, just hit your math button, and as soon as you hit math, it's gonna give you a bunch of stuff. The very first one is frac, that's the thing for fraction. Hit it a couple of times, and it will give you the fraction. So this is our slope. Y minus 53.2 equals 19/30ths, x minus 1999. Okay, so to avoid error, we don't want to round until the very end if we can prevent it. So use your math frac button and that will always give you a fraction. Okay, so would you agree this is my linear equation?
Yes.
Now, again, if the directions don't say anything, can you stop here? Absolutely. If it says, write a linear equation in slope-intercept form, then you're going to get y, you're gonna multiply that out and move the number over, right? Get y by itself. But you don't have to do that unless you want to, unless it says that. All right, so there's my linear equation. Find the imports in 2020. Now, go back to your ordered pairs. These are your x's and these are your y's. So where would the 2020 be, an x or a y? An x. So we're just gonna take our equation that we wrote, and we're just gonna put in a 2020 here. Would someone nod, like you know what I'm doing? Okay, now I'm gonna work it out. So I'm gonna take 2020. It's easier if the equation's in slope-intercept form, but you can do it this way. So 2020 minus 1999 times 19 divided by 30. So this all miraculously worked out to be 13.3. Is that what you got over here?
13.2.
So 2020 minus 1999 equals times 19 divided by 30 is 13.3.
Doesn't that like make sense in the data though?
That isn't the answer. Jake, I'm trying to solve for y. What do I have to do?
Oh, you got,
Yeah, gotta add that 53.2 over. So plus 53.2, how about 66.5? Does that make sense? Now, I love the way Jake was looking at his answer, which wasn't really his answer, but he was looking at his answer in terms of making sense in the problem, because that was a good idea, but obviously he didn't have the whole problem. So $66.5 billion in imports.
So would that answer be any different if you used like two points besides like 2000?
It would be slightly different because, well, it may be significantly different because I made these up. I was sitting at the table just ripping these out. If you picked given any 2 points, could you write the line? Absolutely. But the 2 points you pick will probably generate a different slope, and so you'll get a different value for y. When we do this for real, we write what's called a regression equation. Our calculator can do that for us, and it creates the line of best fit. We're trying to write our own lines, not let our calculator do it, so I'm telling you which points to pick, simply because if I have to grade this thing, I don't want to have 15 different possible answers. So I'm going to tell you which points to use. I did that in the homework too. I don't know if you guys' or another group's homework, and people did not follow directions. But you guys will, I know you will. All right, what else do we need to do, Katie?
Should be 10A.
10A. All right, I have no idea what happens here because, like I said, I'm just sitting there making them up, and people kept coming in and bothering me. No, that was office hours. I was working with kids then. This was during my free period. and they used my room, so I had to go to the faculty lounge, and,
You found my graphing calculator though.
well, that's a relief. Okay, so I tried to set this up exactly as it's gonna look on your test. I mean, not exactly, but the information is what you need to write down. So, this is gonna be the window that you use. Can this be different for different people? Yes, you're gonna have a window that shows what you need it to show. Now, I will always start, this is my compulsive nature, I will always start with Zoom 6. And then modify as necessary. So I've got Zoom 6 going, I'm gonna clear out my old equation, I'm gonna put this one in, x cubed plus 4x squared minus 6x plus 1. So Katie and everybody else, I just type this in, y equals, and I hit graph. Now actually, this window isn't bad. So now I'm gonna go ahead and on the grid, I'm gonna draw what I see on my screen, which is up here, and then down here like this. This is what I see. Is that what you see if you use the same window I did? Okay. Now, when it says solve, what are we looking for? What is our objective? This point, and this point, right? Would you agree with that? Now, this one's gonna be easy to find. So let's go ahead and get that one first. So second calc 0. When you do that, any second calc anything, the cursor should come up. Remember, if you can't see it, you have the coordinates. So down here, it tells you where it is. So you want to move that cursor till it's over here somewhere. On the left side, press enter, then to the right side, and then I got negative 5.19. Anybody else get that for that one? Okay, so in the answer blank, which I don't have answer blanks on here, but in the answer blank would go negative 5.19. That's my first answer. Now, the other two are very close together. You can find them, that is not a problem, but you have to be really careful. If we wanted to spread them out a little bit, we could adjust our window. You can do it right like this if you think it's too confusing to make changes. I don't like them when they're that close together because I have to be really careful about my bounds. If you're finding this 0, for example, this bound has to be before that point, so just make sure you can get it set in there. This bound can be over here anywhere. Likewise, when you find this one, the right or the left bound has to be over here, and not clear over here. It can't involve that point, so it has to be over here somewhere, and then over here. So if you can do that from here, that's great. So second calc 0, we start all over again. Move your cursor so it's over here, and then move it, and move it. So for this first one, I got 0.19. Tell me if you match that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then second calc 0, I start all over again. And, oh, is that one 1?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, this problem, there's another one very similar to it. I want to talk about what would be different. Okay, so Katie, you with me here? You got these 3 answers?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. What if the problem had been this? Okay, now, would this part have changed at all? Nope, we need those points. But now we need to not only look at the points, but we need to look at where the curve is below the axis. So it's below the axis here, and it's below the axis here. Less than 0 means negative y's underneath. So how would we describe that now? When it was in equals, our answer is just those points. Boom, boom, boom. How would we describe this? Allie?
In intervals,
So what would those intervals look like? Yes, what would they look like?
that one would be, parenthesis, negative infinity to negative 5.19, and then a bracket,
Yep, because it's or equal to.
union, and then just parentheses, 0.19, and then 1.
And that there's brackets.
Oh,
Yep.
it's brackets, it's included, okay.
Yeah, because it's or equal to, so they're.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay, so do you see the difference between an equation and an inequality? So fundamentally, you do the same thing. It's just then how you write your answer, what points are included in there. All right, good job on that one. Okay, what else we got?
I just have a question. For the window, do you just write like negative
Whatever
10,
you
10?
did. So I left mine negative 10 to 10.
Okay.
So x negative 10, 10, y negative 10, 10.
Okay.
Okay, if you change it, then write down whatever you changed it to.
Okay. Do you have to put it in brackets or can you just like?
I think the brackets will be there already. Yes, it should be in brackets. If I
Okay.
don't put them in there, you'll put them in there. Jake?
So for A and B, if they're like both set up, like not equal to 0, can we put it over to make it equal to
Always.
0?
Always.
Okay.
If you move it over to 0 to get 0, then you're gonna do what I did here.
Yeah,
If you leave left side and right side, then you're gonna use intersect.
okay,
You know,
okay.
second calc
Yeah.
intersect. So it's whatever flips your switch, it
Okay.
really doesn't matter, one bit. All right, who else? See something here we need to review. Boys and girls, the next time you're in this room, you're taking a test and you are all going to get A's. So let's practice. Charlie?
Could you do 12?
12, squeezed in down there at the bottom. Okay, so here I was running out of time, I was definitely running out of space. So this is not worded completely, but we've done enough of these, you know what's going on, right? I've thrown a ball off a 10-foot cliff with an initial velocity of 38 feet per second, and I'm gonna answer all of these questions. So, first of all, I just want you to visualize, no points for drawing a picture. I just want you to visualize it. Here's the cliff, 10 feet tall. Here I am throwing the ball up into the air. So that is a picture of the whole deal. Would you agree with that? That's it. My equation is going to be h equals s of t equals y equals whatever you want to call it. The ending height is going to be negative 16t squared plus 38t plus 10. Remember, this is the same as function notation. Call it whatever you want. It is the ending height of the ball. This is the starting height of the ball. That's question A. Got it, Charlie?
Yeah.
All right. What is the height of the ball after 1/2 second? Okay, so what do we do? After 1/2 second, plug in 1/2. Kids, in this equation, there are two variables. H stands for height, T stands for time. In order to solve, you gotta have one of those. You gotta plug in one of those. So where am I gonna put the 1/2? In for H or in for T? T is the time, so it's going in for T. So H equals negative 16, 1/2 squared, plus 38, 1/2, plus 10. Please don't forget there's a T hooked to your initial velocity. There are two T's in the equation. All right? So here we go. I can probably do this without a calculator, but go ahead. You certainly can use your calculator. Just make sure you're typing it in correctly. I got 25 feet, but I could be totally wrong. Yes?
Do you care if we write the as T or the H?
Oh, no, I don't care.
That doesn't matter.
No. You can write Y. You can write L for Lisa. I don't care. And you need a letter over here. So that's function notation.
Right.
That's perfect. but it stands for height. All right, did anybody else get 25 feet?
Yeah.
Done. That's the answer to that question. All right, 2. When is the ball on the ground? All right, well, look at my picture. Isn't this when the ball is on the ground?
Yeah.
So I go back to my original equation right here. This is the equation for this problem. And remember, I have to either plug in an H value or I have to plug in a T value. I can't solve it otherwise. I need one of those to be plugged in. So if the ball is on the ground, do I know a height or do I know a time? Height is 0. So 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 38t plus 10.
Why wouldn't the height be negative 10 if you start at 10?
Because the ball is on the ground. This is the actual measurable height of the ball. And when it's on the ground, that height is 0.
I mean,
Yeah.
what if it starts on the ground too?
Then that would be 0. Starting point would be 0.
Alright.
And ending point would be 0 then.
If it started on the ground, you probably would have asked that question, would you?
Or I might. I mean, it's possible. Think of if you are maybe kicking a football, like you're one of those kicker people. When you kick that ball, it goes off the ground, right?
Yeah.
So it actually is a math problem. You have to figure out the velocity with which the ball needs to be kicked to clear the goalpost that's so far away. Yeah, the height can be 0. Absolutely. Okay. All right, where am I? Okay, now I need to solve this. How am I going to do that? I can use the quadratic formula, right?
Square.
What else can I do? Well, completing the square scares me and I'm fearless. Why would I not want to complete the square on this? I could, it is doable, but why would I not want to do that? Look at the fractions that would happen. Remember, if you complete the square, you have to divide by negative 16. It is perfectly legitimate, but if I have a choice, I'm not doing it. Okay? So, I'm going to run through with the quadratic formula just to show you how that works. And then we're going to talk about maybe doing it graphically on our calculator. So, negative 38 plus or minus the square root of 38 squared minus 4 times A times C. Let's make sure we can all type this in. I'm sure you can, but I hate taking points off for calculator errors. Is this okay with everybody? Our quadratic formula? When I do it, you can do whatever you want. When I do it, I do this first. I just figure out what is that number under there. So 38 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 10. I got 2084. So one of my answers is negative 38 plus the square root of 2084 over negative 32, and the other one is negative 38 minus. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Type it in my calculator. I'll do the first one first. Negative 38 plus the square root of 2084 equals, make sure after you type in your numerator you hit equals, and then divided by negative 32. Whoops! That one's no good. What's wrong with that answer?
Negative time.
Negative time. If you look at the picture, is there an x-intercept back here somewhere? Well, mathematically there is, but practically there isn't. So we have to throw that one out. All right, this one better work then. Negative 38 minus the square root of 2084 equals, divided by negative 32, 2.61. When is the ball on the ground? 2.61 seconds. Is that okay with everybody? All right, now, let's go to our calculator. Let's type in our equation, negative 16x squared plus 38x plus 10. Now, I have a standard window set up which makes 0 sense in this problem because my variables are time and height, so my minimums should both be 0. So window, x min, y min. Now, y max is the path of the ball. I currently have my maximum, because I zoom sixth, I have my maximum at 10. Well, that's dumb, because isn't that where the ball starts? Right? So I need to be higher than that, so I'm gonna make my y max, I don't know, I'll try 50. Now when I graph, do you see a picture that looks more like this? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to find this point on your calculator. How do we do that? Second, calc, 0, and we need to move our cursor. I haven't seen mine yet, it's still coming, there it is. I need to move my cursor, set it like here, and then it'll be off the screen down there, but that's fine, we don't care. And guess what I got when I did that? 2.6? Now, leave that alone, we're gonna look at that in a minute. The last question, Charlie, this goes with the homework we were talking about. When is the ball higher than 12 feet? So remember, it started at 10, here's 12. I want the ball to be higher than 12 feet. So aren't I interested in this part of the picture right here? So I'm gonna leave everything alone, except I'm gonna go back to y equals, and I'm gonna put in a second equation that is 12. Just y equals 12.
Which equation do you throw into y to get this line?
This is for original parabola, then I'm typing in y equals 12. Now, I need to find that point and that point, because that's where it equals 12. So second, calc, intersect. And then I gotta move the cursor. With this window, you gotta do a lot of moving. I'm gonna move the cursor so it is somewhere over here. And press enter. And I'm gonna move the cursor so it's somewhere over there, and then here. So this first point I got was, oh gosh, did you get 0.05?
Yeah.
That's fine, I just made this problem up, so who knows, 0.05. And then start over, second, calc, intersect. And I'm gonna find this one. So there goes my cursor. There's my cursor. And that one, I got 2.32. Okay, what do those 2 points represent? Exactly when the ball is 12 feet above the ground, right? The question didn't say, when is it 12 feet? It said, when is it higher than that? So wouldn't you say the answer is the interval from 0.05 to 2.32? Isn't that when the ball is higher? We okay with that? Now, Charlie's question was, but the homework problem said, when is the ball less than 12 feet above the ground? Everything we've done here is important. If the ball is less than 12 feet above the ground, wouldn't I be looking at this part right here and this part right here? So 0 to 0.05, 0 to 0.05, or 2.32 to when it hits the ground, which is 2.61. That's actually, this would be a bracket, and this would be a bracket. That's when the ball is less than 12 feet above the ground. So Charlie, to answer your question, when the ball hits the ground, the problem's over. So the last number in that interval has got to be when the ball is on the ground. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have another
Okay,
question.
let's hang on. Are we good on this then? We have answered a whole bunch of questions here. Everybody all right? Okay, what's your question?
Can we do 7?
7, we're gonna simplify this. All right, so okay. I think what I'm gonna do first, and again, we all gotta end up with the same answer. The order we do it is, you can do whatever you want. But this always makes me crazy. So I'm gonna take this whole 3x squared and move it to the top. Would you be okay with that?
Yep.
So I'm gonna take my 3x squared and I'm gonna move it to the top. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the exponent there, but since it's a 1, when I move it up, it becomes positive. It really doesn't matter, but I'll leave it there just for the time being. Now, this is gonna be an x to the negative 15th and y to the 9th. And this is gonna stay on the bottom for y squared. Would everybody agree with me so far? You may not have done it like this, but are you okay with what I've done so far? The next thing I would do personally is I would get rid of this, move him to the bottom. So I'm gonna have my 3x squared on the top. If this were a different exponent, like a 2 or something, I would square all that, I would take care of that, but it's just a 1. And my y to the 9th is up there. Now, I have 4y squared on the bottom, and I'm bringing my x to the 15th down. Does that make sense to everybody? So at this point, I start reducing. 3 and 4 do not reduce. If I had a 9 and a 12 or something, I would reduce. I can't. I have 2 x's on the top and 15 x's on the bottom. Think about what that looks like. 2 on the top, 15 on the bottom. When you start canceling, you can only cancel out 2, and then what happens? You got 13 of them left on the bottom, right? And then what about your y's? You got 9 of them on the top, 2 of them on the bottom. You start canceling, you only take out 2, and you're left with 7 on the top. How you arrive at that, you can do lots of different things, but that is the answer you want to end up with. So if your way is not working, try my way. Or come up with a new way. All right, what else? Come on, we have 15 more minutes.
Number 9.
Number 9. A new car costs $43,500, depreciates this much a year. What does depreciates mean? Goes down in value. So I am gonna subtract, every year I take away $2,250, right? So could you write a linear equation that describes that? The value of my car started out at $43,500, but what's happening to that number? I'm subtracting $2,250 for every year. Does that make sense to you? If you absolutely need function. The first ordered pair would be 0, 43, 5. What would the value be after 1 year? After 1 year, it would be that number minus 2250. What is that? 41,250? Right?
Yep.
And after 3 years, I could subtract another one, and so after 2 years, and so on. This is if you absolutely have to have ordered pairs. Now you can find your slope, and you can write your equation, and it's gonna look just like that. Because this situation is easy. The value is going down the same amount every year, so every year just adds on an additional 2250, or subtracts an additional 2250. So there's my linear function. Question: find when the car will be worth 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in my equation, I have to put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 somewhere. Where's it gonna go? X or Y? Y. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equals 43500 minus 2250x. And now I just solve that equation. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus 43500 equals divided by negative 2250. So about 8.9 years. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
All right, what else? What else, Peter?
6.
I did 314. This is one of those just math book problems. I don't know that anybody ever does this in the real world, but we do in math class. How do we simplify I to a great big giant power like that? Allie?
When it's positive, it's -1. Oh no, when it's even, it's -1. And when it's odd, it's positive.
Be careful. Be
No?
careful. You're kind of on the right track. There's a definite pattern, but that's not it.
Oh, okay.
Be careful. Guys, I do the first is just I. What's I squared? -1. So that would make I cubed -1 times I, or negative I, right? Because I cubed is these two times each other. What's I in the fourth? I squared times I squared, that would be 1 because it's -1 times -1. Now, if I kept going, wouldn't I just start repeating? Because isn't I to the 5th gonna be this times one of these, so it'll just be I? And I to the 6th would be this times this, -1, and so on. So when you look at a big power of I, I'm not gonna write 314 of them out, but, okay, there are my I's. Every 4, just make a 1. I to the 4th is 1. So that's 1 times another 1, times another 1, another 1, another 1. What is the interesting part of the problem? Not all the groups of 4, because they just make 1. The leftover. And how, without writing them all out and drawing circles, how can I find the leftover? Divide by 4. Now, you've done this before, oh my goodness gracious. So divide by 4, 7's 28, 34, 4 goes into there, 8, 32. So if I divided right, if I wrote out 314 I's, what is that a calculator? I saw your calculator there, and then I got nervous. If I wrote out 314 I's, there would be 78 circles,
Yeah.
and that means 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, 78 times, don't care about it. There would be 2 little I's left over on the end. What's I squared? -1. So the answer to this problem is -1.
So if it's like a it goes into 4, the number, would it be the number that you get?
No, because if it, let's say this had been 312,
Yeah.
okay, so then it divided in evenly, which means when I wrote them all out, there'd be 78 and nothing left. So it's 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, 78 times. What's that gonna be? 1. If there's no remainder, then all you've got is ones.
And then if there is a remainder, it's negative 1?
No, it depends what the remainder is. If the remainder is 2, then that's I squared, which is negative 1. If the remainder is 1, then it's just I. You just have a little I left over on the end.
The
If
answer
it's
would be I.
3, the answer would be negative I, because I cubed is negative 1 times I.
Yeah.
There'll never be a remainder of 4, because you're dividing by 4. So if it goes in evenly, it's just 1. All right, what else? Is your hand up, Katie?
No, sorry.
All right, come on, guys, come on, we got 11 minutes. Yep. 8. Solve this. Now, it will be clear when you are to use a calculator and not, so let's make sure we understand the vocabulary. Whenever it says solve graphically, like we did earlier, that means calculator. Graph it on your calculator, figure out the answers. When it doesn't say that, or if it says solve algebraically, that means no calculator. So we are not typing this in and finding the zeros. We're gonna do it by hand. I don't care if you check it on your calculator, but you have to show this work. This kind of work has to be shown. Look at that problem. No calculator. What do you think I'm gonna do first?
Take out X.
Take out an X. Love it. We're gonna factor it. All right, now what? Well, we're finding the zeros. So I already know one of my answers is 0 from that guy. Now I gotta get 2 answers from this. So what are my options?
Factor.
Factor, if it factors, they don't all factor. Does this factor? Did you already figure it out? I mean, I have no idea if it factors or not. Oh, no, that's not right. Oh, no, I don't think it factors. I did for a minute think it did, but I don't think it does. So what do I do? If it factors and you wanna factor it, go ahead and factor it. Absolutely. But, I don't know, does this factor? Okay, what do you wanna do with it?
I was gonna say, could you do like the negative 3 divided by 2 and then square it?
Oh, complete the square?
Yeah.
You absolutely could complete the square if you want to divide everything by 2 and put a fraction here, and that's okay. What else could we do? Use the quadratic formula. Now, I don't want to discourage you. Because I'm lazy doesn't mean you have to be lazy. If you dig into those fractions and think that's super, complete the square, because this one's going to have fractions. I'm just going to use the formula to find my other 2 answers. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. I don't want to rule out factoring. That's always the quickest, easiest way, but not everything factors. So that's why we have to have an alternative. Let's see, that's 8 times 4 is 32. Did you get 41 under there? So there's an answer blank here. You gotta fill it in. 3 numbers go in the answer blank. That one, don't forget about him, and these 2.
3 plus and then 3 minus.
You can write them together, but yes, it would be 3 plus root 41 over 4 and 3 minus root 41 over 4. You do not have to split those up unless you just want to. The only time you have to simplify that, you have to split them up, is let's say this would come out to be a 36. It didn't, but let's say it did. Now you see you can split that up because that's just 6. So then you have to do 3 plus 6 divided by 4, 3 minus 6 divided by 4. But as long as it's a radical, you can't, I mean, there's nothing to do, so you can just leave it if you want. Jake?
Do 5B.
5B. Now, this one is different than the one we just did. The one we just did was an equation and equals. So what goes in the answer blank in an equals is x equals. So x equals these two, or x equals 0. When you throw an inequality symbol into the problem, that means I'm looking on a number line and my answer will be intervals, right? Now you can start it the same way, but this is a square. There's going to be 2 dots on this number line. They're going to be colored in dots, and I need to figure out where the dots are. So essentially, I'm right back to where I was a minute ago. I have to solve this quadratic. Now, this one does factor. So if you want to factor it, that's faster. If you want to use the quadratic formula or complete the square fractions again, you're welcome to. It does just factor. Please factor it carefully. X plus 6, x minus 1. Right? Now, at this point, stop. There are 2 dots on the number line. Every time there are 2 dots on the number line, you're either going to shade between them or outside of them. This is a greater than problem. Where have we shaded every greater than problem that had 2 dots? Out. Do not do this crap, okay? No, don't do this. This is wrong. Don't do that. You got 2 dots on the number line, shade out. That's it. That's your answer. So as an interval in the answer blank, oh, my 2 dots are at -6 and 1. Everybody okay with that? That's kind of an important thing to put down. So -infinity to -6, or 1 to infinity, and then decide on your symbols. Infinity is always parentheses. Since the dots are colored in, I will use brackets for these 2 numbers. And that's the answer to the question.
If you did a quadratic formula for it and you did end up getting something crazy like on the last question we did, how would, like, what would be your point?
You would probably type in on your calculator, 3 plus root 41 over 4 and get a decimal approximation, 3 minus root 41, and then those would be your 2 dots. They just wouldn't be whole numbers.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
That's how you would do it. Okay, who else? We got time for one more problem. Come on. One more. Friday's game day, folks.
Let's do number 2.
Number 2. Simplify. Okay, here's another I problem. It's a different kind of I problem. How do we simplify 4 minus I over 2 plus 3I? How do we simplify that? What do we do?
Conjugate by 2 minus 3.
Somebody even used the right word, the conjugate. We're gonna multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. Everybody okay with that? And that becomes, Eli, are you okay? Okay. We're going to FOIL, so we have a big FOIL. Carefully first, outside, inside, last. First, outside, inside, last. I squared, we talked about this earlier, I squared is -1. I squared is -1, right? So what happens to this? This becomes -3, and this becomes +9. Eight minus 3 is 5 minus 14i over 13. And there's your answer. quick properties, number 1A. What properties? I did the same property, addition and multiplication. What property is that?
Reflexive.
Be careful, commutative. Didn't I change the order, Katie? 1A on this last review sheet I gave you?
Is reflexive when it's the same on both sides?
Exactly the same, no difference. They
Okay.
look exactly the same, mirror image. So A is commutative of addition and of multiplication. What's B? Identity for addition and multiplication. What's C? Inverse for addition and multiplication. What's D? Distributive, period, distributive. There's no other word, just distributive. And E? Associative. The first one's of multiplication, the second one is of addition. Right? Know those properties, guys. Those are the ones you need to know. This is your review with focus. Okay? C's inverse, the inverses.
Which one is which for you? Properties.
Yeah, so that's multiplication. And it's associative. You have the associative. All right, guys, that's it. If you are an extended time person, make sure you have submitted the form today. Do not wait till the last minute. It stresses me out.